Brothers and sisters, today I want to tell you the truth. What people continue to ask me is about the color of Jesus. What color do I think Jesus was? It's not what color that I think he was, it's what color I know he was. Because I know that Jesus himself was black, he was dark in color. You see, in those days, blackness meant evil. Blackness meant you were associated with witchcraft and sorcery. And Jesus was the type of person who was very dark in color. And that was a time when people would not even want to look up on Jesus because you wouldn't want to take a second look. It was nothing to him that make you was drawn to him. God made him dark like this so that man would not be drawn to him. Physically, he made him look very oddly to what you would like a person that you would be more attracted to. This was in order so that people would come to him because of the spiritual powers. They would be drawn to him because of God, not because of the way he looked, not because of his darkness, not because of his handsomeness, but because of the way he looked. Man, if you look at the world today, when it's nighttime, people are afraid. A lot of people are afraid to go out in the dark. A lot of children don't like going out in the dark. And in this hour, in these times, if you see a man, he's very dark complected. Some people don't want him around. In those days, there was racism, so much racism. And in today's society, it's a lot of racism because they didn't want anyone with dark color around because they believed in those days that it was like they were of sorcery and witchcraft. And when they saw that Jesus was casting out spirits, they thought that he was part of Beelzebub, the prince of demons. They thought, well, hey, look here, he must be associated with the devil. They looked up on Jesus as like, you need to leave, you frightening us, and we need to get rid of this man. This man he's a devil. Look how dark he is. They were disrespectful of him. They hated him. A lot of them hated him. And when his powers was so strong and powerful, they became so frightened they didn't know what to do. Even the Jews themselves were very critical and hateful of Jesus because they thought, well, this is he shouldn't belong here. He's saying that he's the son of God. What? This man is saying he's the son of God? What kind of person would say this? They were terrified. Look at him. He's dark. He's dark. He's too dark. This is the work of Satan. He's too dark. It can't be the son of God being that dark. They was terrified. I mean, and the scriptures even commonly tell you this over and over again. In today's society, is saying that Jesus was a Caucasian. Everybody wants to change his facial figures to make him look brighter and make him look different. And yet they do not know that God did this for a purpose. God did not work with the angel descendants. You see, the angels, the watchers, were like snowy white, and they came down. And what they did, as it's to this story, what the angels, the watchers did, was to plague mankind and to use, because they saw how beautiful, dark-skinned, beautiful black women that God had created. They were beautiful, and God and the angels, and when they saw this, they said, look, daughters of man are beautiful, so we will corrupt them. So what they did, they laid their spirits upon them. And every time one of the men would have mate with his wife, she would conceive an angel's child because that spirit was upon it. Understand, this is how angels work their magic. This is how angels work their magic. They can't have sex with people. They send a spirit from their bodies into that, right up on that seed. And when that spirit up on that woman's uterus, it combines and it overtakes. It forms in its own way. It overtakes. And when it overtakes, it comes out the womb and it rises up as an angel's child. This is how the giants came up on the earth, the hybrids. And a lot of people would say, upset, that it is a racist thing to say that in those days that every mankind was black because God created man black. He created man dark in color because he wanted to distinguish man from the angels. And you look and you say, a lot of people say, well, where did white folks come from? Well, I will tell you the truth. A lot of times, God changes things. He wanted to mix people up on the earth. When he brought some more people, he brought other people too. There were other people that came to the earth, and they also brought forth offspring up on the earth. You see, and I'm not talking about like devils. The Alphurians came to the earth. They were dark in color. And then there were other people that came to the earth dark in color. And they breeded amongst mankind. And just as if you read in the book of Enoch, when he told Methuselah about his son, about his grandson, that God was changing things because his grandson his skin tone was like that of one of the angels almost, but he was an albino. They thought that his eyes were blue, but his eyes lit up the room, meaning that if you take the sunlight and you go inside a room, it's light brown. The sunlight rolls against the wall, it's light brown, it's not blue. But the angels did another deceptive thing even after the flood. The smaller angels, there were some the size that come to your knee, to your ankle. They were still around, and they did indeed inflict the daughters of Africa. And this is why a lot of people say, why was African people caught all over the nations as slavery? Because they were being warned. They had been warned of a prophecy long ago, a prophecy that was hidden from mankind. They was warned not to send their children all over, not to let their children go. They threw their children into Saudi Arabia, into caves. They threw their children everywhere. Their albino children. They wanted them away from them. The ones that had blue eyes, they threw them away. And the Arabs took care of them and raised them up. And then you had some of them going all into Yugoslavia and Copenhagen and stuff and doing all sorts of evil acts against those nations there. They took over Europe and destroyed Europe. And Europe became what you call a Caucasian nation, a white nation. They took over all sorts of, before Europe was Europe, before Switzerland was Switzerland, before all these nations exist, even Russia. These nations became all Caucasian nations because of the children of Africa. And I'm not talking about the black children of Africa. I'm talking about the white children of Africa. And you say, why were so many black slaves, African slaves all over the place? Again, that was a tribe of Africa being punished. One tribe which combined into 5 different clans. Because that tribe continued to throw their children out of their country. They was told to keep their children and to raise them up and to teach them respect and obedience to God. But they didn't do it. Instead, they went astray. They were terrified because the babies had blue eyes and light skin. They was terrified. And when you don't teach your children, what happens? Your children grow up to be bad. And the desolate children went back against their own parents and pulled them out of their country, against their parents, against their brothers and sisters, and was pulling them into slavery. Pulling them into slavery, which is what happened. So you can't continue to say that prophecy was wrong. What happened to Africa was a punishment to them because they kept doing wrong. Every black man in the United States is not an African. He's not African American. Jesus was not an African American. Although Jesus was black, he was not an African American. The house of David itself came from on high, came from Alphuria, when the Alphurians came to the earth. Understand, David was adopted into the clan of Israel. Israel is not Africans. The Hebrews were not Africans. Understand this. But know this, the truth. Jesus himself was indeed a black man. Thank you, brothers and sisters. God bless you.